listener production.
Hey there, Bension Siebert here with this bonus episode of The Briefing. Last week, we brought you the stories of 3 Australians living in US swing states about their lives, their hopes, and their fears ahead of the presidential election. As we all know by now, Donald Trump won. He will be US president from January. And for one of those Australians, Chris Mead, that means she and her husband, Matt, now have some difficult decisions to make. So we thought we'd come back to her now to understand what the result means for her and her family and what she plans to do about it. Chris, welcome back to The Briefing. You've lived in the US for 25 years. You told us last week that you had an exit strategy in case Donald Trump wins. How are you feeling about that now, and what are you planning to do?
I really feel like I'm in a numb sense of brain because I can't believe it happened. I'm still in shock and quite astonished that the Americans would stoop so low to choose that route and to not comprehend the ramifications of that choice. And I really underestimated that. And I seriously was depressed the day after. Like, I could not voice. I was numb. Nothing. And so I've gone around circle like, yes, we'll leave, but then we have a child and we have careers here. So is that easy? No, it's not. But in addition, if we do have the choice, being that I'm an Australian citizen, my son's an Australian citizen, my husband isn't, we'd have to do that processing work. It will cost us about $6,000 to $8,000 to do that. And that's okay to do, but also I would then be of an elite kind of positioning because we do have that choice and our friends don't. And the people that we circle in are all feeling exactly the same way as us, like what the fruit just happened and why and how, and disgust and shock. And to the point where we're not talking about it, we're all silent because we're still trying to digest what will. And so we have until January to understand if anything's going to happen. And quite honestly, I'm hoping that the checks and balances will come into a play for the systems that were put in so long ago. I'm praying, hoping, whatevering that will save us. But if it gets really bad, we will do something about it sooner than not.
Can you just explain, each of you, your professional circumstances and how that comes into this decision making?
So I'm in law enforcement as a prosecutor. So one of the things I'm concerned about in terms of the planning that they've been talking about for the incoming Trump administration in terms of deportation is they want to involve local law enforcement. I don't know what that would mean for my job, but I certainly have I just had no interest whatsoever being involved in deportations of families and breaking up families for that sort of program. That's not my job. That's not my mission. That's not what I ever signed up to do. So it's one of the things that I'm fearful of. How will this affect my work? If it's something that I'm not interested in being a part of, then I'm just not going to do it. So that's some of the decision making that I have to make for myself in my position.
I'm a realtor, and if the economy goes south and no one can buy a home or afford a home, I'm out of business. And of course, I'm commission-based, so that cash flow would stop completely. It affects renters. I do a lot of rentals. It affects everyone across the board from any type of home living. But on the other hand I don't think Matt would be a lawyer in Australia because there's a difference. It's a Westminster system. He'd have to go back through doing his papers. They're just not as easy to say, oh, yeah, let's go be a lawyer and a realtor back in Australia and earn the money that we earn here.
Right.
So, but that being said, we'd have the exchange rate on our side. We'd hope if the economy doesn't crash here. There's just so many moving targets.
What would Donald Trump have to do for you to make that incredibly life-changing decision to abandon America after 25 years?
So from my perspective, this is not a man who thinks through things, okay? He is a person that has grandiose talk of different things. He's not a planner. The things in terms of wanting to put in all the tariffs and getting into trade wars with other countries, it absolutely wrecked this economy. If you Put that on top with the deportation of, I don't even care how many people you try to do it, it still stifles the economy. Would absolutely kill the economy in this country. You talk about inflation now, and the inflation would just absolutely skyrocket. Those sort of things make it less tenable for us to be here, especially for Chris's job in terms of being in real estate. If Trump wants to get into the point where he wants to put troops on the streets of certain cities where, we have family and friends, or even where we live, right? Those sorts of things would be, no, I'm not one to be around that. I don't want my son to grow up around that. Those are the sort of things that would be the triggers.
It's hard because, he says he's going to do so much and then he doesn't always pull through. But it'd be big things that would affect our lives in our house. I mean, unfortunate as it sounds, when a devastation or a killing or whatever, a mass murder happens here, it doesn't really affect us. We still just keep going on with our lives, right? As hollow as that sounds, it's true. And until it gets to your front door of your kid being killed or your son's school, you just keep moseying along like that. I feel like it would have to really impact in our kitchen, so to speak, of like, holy shit, we really don't want to live in this environment of X, 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 and X. Mm. And be honest, I can't put my finger on what that's going to be because we don't trust what he's going to do, right?
Can I ask, have you spoken with your son about this possibility?
Yeah. We've talked about it with him.
And how does he feel about it?
I think he would be okay. Mm. Yeah, certainly, we've been to Australia so many times to see family. He knows he has family and friends there. So that is not as much of a worry for him. Certainly, but the problem is for him, he's so close to graduating from high school in a couple of years that it's sort of like, what does he have to do then to kind of catch up to the Australian system? Where they're going to put him? Does he get set back a year or two? Because it's a different system. So there's a lot of unknowns. I think he wonders about that.
Yeah. He's already got a college set for him. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's kind of like...
You go off to university here.
Yeah, and it would be... That's right.
Disrupting all that.
Yeah.
Do you know other people who are thinking about this decision as well? Are others in your orbit seriously considering leaving the United States?
Yeah, we do have a friend that's Canadian, and I spoke to him the other day, and he has a son at our age, and he's pretty much going to plan to have possibly a house here, but might spend at least 6 to 8 months in Canada, so that he can still have the hybrid. And that's what we would do too. Possibly
it's a little bit harder with Australia though compared to Canada.
True, very true. No. But there is a silence on our side of the Democratic aisle of that. We're just not talking about anything though. We can't verbalize this at the moment. We're just still digesting it because we're in such shock of the underestimation of what we didn't think would happen. Like, we just didn't realize that Americans would stoop this low, to be honest. And so, yes, so I'm yet to still talk to a lot of friends. I know our other friends from California, they went to Costa Rica about 9 months ago in preparation for potential this happening, and they may well be. We haven't spoken to them, but I know that they could easily do it. That was their exit plan, and because they're Americans. And so if people don't have another a choice, what are they to do as Americans? This is their country. I do have another good friend who already sort of preempted this, and he's already had the wheels in motion for some time, and he will be moving to Portugal in about a month and a half. He's selling his house. He's doing everything in that process and has been doing up until the election. And when I wrote to him on the election day afterwards, he goes, I just proved my point and the true colours of the Americans. Yeah, and he's an American.
I'm sure we'll find others too. We haven't talked to you yet.
We just haven't. Yeah. You can't bring yourself to talk about it, to be honest, Benison. It's really a tough...
Everybody's still trying to figure it out.
It's really a tough pill to swallow.
Mm. Well, thanks so much to the both of you for speaking with us again on The Briefing. We really appreciate it.
Certainly. Thank you so much.
Chris Mead and her husband Matt there. That's it for this bonus episode of The Briefing. As always, chuck us a follow on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast. We're also on TikTok and YouTube. Search Listener Newsroom. Sasha and Chris will be back in your feed with all the biggest news of the day and another deep dive from 6 a.m. on Monday. I'm Bension Siebert. Catch you next time.